Here we have a tube cleanup job. We got one tube to show what it looks like, and you can see this was pre-ground on a stone centerless grinding machine, and because the tube is not perfectly round, you have spots where you are not removing all the oxidation and the mill scale. Originally the tube looks like this, and then we have some short pieces like these here. In order to run those, we lined those up on an aluminum tube, made it nice and fit where it fits really snug around that aluminum tube, and we made ourselves a stopper behind it and some strips on the inside in order to hold this firmly on there, just for the test here. So I was a little bit worried that we would remove all this in one pass, and I started a test with an 80 grit zirconium, a ZK713X on the machine, and you can see here the raw tube. We ran this at about 70% belt speed and at about 70% feed rate. And at that feed rate, you can see it came out already pretty clean, and the 80 grit, of course, gives it a little bit of surface tension. I think this will paint fine, but what we will do afterwards, we'll clean it up one more time, then with a 120 grit, and this is a used 120 grit. Also the same ZK713X, in order to give it a little bit smoother finished surface for the painting. The second tube then, I will try with this 120 grit right away, and maybe we give it simply 2 passes back and forth if it doesn't clean it up in the first pass. And you can do this very simple on this machine. You can go either backwards or you can go forward. Okay, so, and I can demonstrate that here. I just need to look inside here real quick where we are. So here, the tube comes back out, and I'm going to look into the gap to find out where the blank stop starts. See here, you see it is ground and clean. So I'm going to restart here. This was just for me a test to see where we are. Machine is very simple. I mean, there's videos that show you belt change and things like that. With these wheels, you adjust the feed rollers to the diameter of the tube, and that's just a touch and feel thing, very quick. You pick your feed rate. This is the off-on for the rotator, and then this is your on for the belts, and the off button goes for both, and then you have your belt speed here. So all we're going to do here is we're going to turn on the rotation. We're going to turn on the have a little bit of few spots here at the end, but I think then by following up with the 120, that'll clean up. And that could also give you always a belt chamber as it goes around here. That's a little bit like an they don't have but it also seems to me that they have a little bit of like a key or a door against when they process, when they're not being processed, they make this. Okay, so that means the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to make this belt change. Since I only have one hand, I am not going to need to remove the screw down here. Where am I? I am not going to take a video of that. Like I say, there's video online. But the principle is really simple. You push the foot pedal. I do that with my knee. Then you can rotate the wheel to where you can take the belts off. You release the tension of the belt and you remove the belt. So here we now have that 120 grid, and that changeover is really a little bit more extreme than just a changeover from an 80 to a 120, because this was a brand new 80, and like I say, this is a not a lot, but a reasonably used 120. Still has life to it. Okay, and again, that screw goes in at the bottom. I'm gonna only hand tighten that because we don't really need to do anything. So, and now we are going to run this tube straight through the 120, and we will see what happens there. And for that, we turn the feed right on. I'm gonna, again, since I'm one-handed here on a lovely Saturday afternoon, we're gonna stop it short before the belt. We're going to turn the machine on. We're gonna turn the belt on. We're gonna push the foot pedal. That slows the speed down. Now we can bring the belt in and decide. And I'm going to slow the feed rate. Actually, the feed rate was pretty slow. And I'm going to keep that slow, but I'm going to increase the belt speed. From the surface. The part is still not hot. It is smoother, very similar and smooth like your part. And what we are going to watch here is we're going to watch towards the end, and we're not going to let that go past the belt. We're just going to stop it right here in the belt, and then we are going to reverse. A little bit of a chatter here, simply because I need to check the alignment between my outfeed and the center of the machine. So this is the second pass. And you see the quality of the feed. Now, what we are not eliminating are some of the nicks that are in the tube. So if we want to go deeper, we would have to do that like with the 80. I will mark this tube 2 passes, 120. Yeah, we adjust going to run this out. So, yeah. So this is a tube that we produced. This is a tube that you made. This with a 120. And this is the tube with the 80. And I think you can see the difference. And actually, what we probably should do, you see, you have here, you have some nicks in here. If you want to get rid of those, we really should run even 2 passes 80 probably, and then run 2 passes 120, which you see is very simple in the machine because you don't have to take it out. So just to make sure that we have all this out, I am going to first run this tube one more time through 80. And for that, I need to make a quick belt. So here we go. We have entered the tube already. Everything is set to go. We just turn this on. So that is the second pass 80. So now we have this comparison. And at some point you could try to paint, maybe I'll only grind half of this with the 120 and you can paint the rest of it and see how the 80 paints compared to the 120. That would be a pretty interesting test, by the way. Okay, so now we'll go and paint back really quick to the 120. So here we are with this 80 grit tube in the beginning, and I'm going to run it to about here in the middle, just 120, back and forth. Would be 2 passes 80, 2 passes 120 on the smooth side. And by the way, I will write this on your tube so that you will see that. Transition from the 80 to the 120. And I am absolutely positive that that 120 will paint just fine. That's the 120. And that's the 120 just from the raw material. That's of course a very fine tube. And then here we are getting into the 80. And you see the difference between the front and the back. And then your tube in the background, which was probably ground with 180 grit stone. Yeah. And now we'll make the adjustment for the diameter on the machine for these two. And we'll do the same thing. We'll pre-grind them with 80 and then we will finish them with 120. So the larger diameter of this tube measures 89 millimeters. So all we do is we set both sides of the machine to about 89 millimeters, and that makes for the diameter of the tube in the machine. That makes that adjustment. Before we had it a little bit under 50. Now these short pieces, because I only have two, I need to feed in by hand because I would lose the infeed rollers on the back edge before I'm firmly with the outfeed rollers on the front piece of the tube. If we would have enough pieces to line up a longer segment, let's say 24 inches at least, or maybe even 48 if that's what you want to do, then we could of course also use the automatic feed in. Okay, so in order to do this, what we need to do is, as you can see, I'm coming through here, and then I'm gonna come off the edge here just as I reach the front end. So this is going to be a little bit critical. We have the feeders moved away, all right, and yeah, we give it a go, and we'll see how that goes, and we hope that these tube ends will hold on this aluminum piece, of course. It of course expands and then it goes a little bit loose. Yeah. So anyway, so now we do a belt change. Oh, sorry, not the 80. I want this one. That's 120. And that's the belt. Okay, these parts stay nice and cool, of course, when you, so this is pretty firm, and this one is not. I really have to force this onto the tape on the bottom. To make them both stick. You can see on the top one, I put a piece of tape underneath here in order to hold this better. But now that I jammed this, I think it'll be fine. So, and off you go with the 120. For sure for you, a very nice, clean, totally paintable surface. Okay, well, and that concludes this demo. I think you will be very pleased with the results, and we go from here. Thank you very much.